there, welcome back. Right now, as you know, in the last couple of videos I've promised a tool review, which we had to put off a couple of times. Penny couldn't be with us last time, welcome back.
Thank you.
Feeling better?
Yeah, a bit, thank you.
Excellent, okay, right, now today I want to go into this with a little bit of enthusiasm because, as you remember the last time we did a tool review, I covered this little thing, or should I do this little thing, which is the MultiSharp drill bit sharpener. Now, you loved it, really, most of you. I think a few of you said that they're quite flimsy. A few said that because it's plastic and therefore flexible, that it's not the best. A few of you said, no, go away and learn the skills and sharpen drills on a grindstone. Well, of course, that's the right answer. Of course, that's the proper way to do it. But please bear in mind, those are skills, in inverted commas. They really are. Those people, the people who can sharpen a drill bit by hand to a perfect edge, that is a talented skill in the first place, probably backed up by a lifetime apprenticeship and experience. But those of us mere mortals, one of these plugged into your power drill will sharpen your drill bits. And the proof of that was when I did the very last, or the video before last, where I repaired Penny's broken gear lever. I managed to drill right down, a whole inch down into that steel pin. Absolutely superbly, lovely filings coming out. It was a lovely sharp drill and it lasted all the way down through, and that was sharpened on this. It is working. I've been using it a lot. No complaints as of yet. The little stone here is getting kind of a grey edge on it where I'm using it all the time, so it looks like that may eventually wear, but the stones are cheaply available and the whole thing is only £15 to buy. So I'm really happy with it, and I think a lot of you were. I know a lot of you have bought them, so I hope you're getting on well with them. Today what I want to do instead is look at the next thing, because that seemed to work quite well and I didn't know that kind of thing existed that was so effective for so little money, a power drill driven sharpener for drill bits. I looked at what else they've got, and we had a chat with the guys at RECON, and they said yes indeed there is, and there are other tools from MultiSharp. So today what I've got is the kind of next thing along, which is the MultiSharp Whetstone. So I'm going to do the same thing with this. We're going to see if this is any good. I've read the reviews on it. Some are good, some are not. Some say it's absolute rubbish and falls to bits. But then they go on to say, this is quite funny, isn't it? Yeah. They go on to say it's rubbish and it fell to bits, and I had to screw the stone back in and it was really flimsy. But once you get the hang of it, it's really great. And I've got all these fantastic sharp tools. So it does seem from reading the reviews that this thing works once you get the hang of it. So I'm going to see if I can get the hang of it. Let's get it opened up, see what it looks like inside and just how flimsy it is or isn't. And we'll read the instructions, which I think is important. Let's get stuck in.
Let's try it.
Okay, let's get into it. Okay, here it is. That's the item there. Good set of instructions like last time. Some attachments. And a little piece of leather. Interesting. Right. Now, as with all these things, and as I found out in the last one of these reviews that I did on the drill bit sharpener, is that the instructions are really good. They're very comprehensive. They're not translated from Chinglish. They are proper English instructions that you can actually follow and read. So I'm going to give these instructions a good old read through, make sure I'm aware of everything it's supposed to do before we see if it does it. Okay, the first thing the instructions give us to do is to secure it to the bench, much the same as the last one. Steel top bench, and like with the last one, I want this able to be put in the drawer and brought out when I need it, not permanently screwed to my bench. So I'll take that one out of the way, just for now. That little lug is all it leaves behind, so that's fine there. I'm going to use this wooden laundry box lid as the place to screw it to. On this side, it's going to be that way on because it uses the drill as before, and then it will be secured there. So it gives us the first instruction is to remove this. If you look in here, the first thing you're told to do is remove the water bath itself, take that off, and then secure that to the edge of your bench. Right, we're also told to screw this other item down next to it. This is like a little leather strop, which appears to be for honing the blade at the end like a barber with a leather strap. So that goes down, and we are instructed to mount it with 5/8 of an inch or 15mm hanging off the edge of the bench. Okay, as this whole thing is designed to work on the edge of your bench facing you, that's no good for filming today, as I've just been told by my producer. So I need to turn this sideways on so you can see what's going on at the same time. And obviously that then puts this little edge underneath in the way of things. So I'm going to put a couple of pieces of wood there, stand it on top of them, nice and secure, and then clamp the whole thing down with a big clamp onto the bench. And that's going nowhere. That's it, superb. Next job is to put the tool, the actual sharpening tool, into this. This is the water tray. That's what holds the cooling water. The water, the idea of this being a whetstone is that you can grind and sharpen chisels and blades and so on without ruining the temper, without overheating them. It's a cooling water, and it has to have this little tray full of it down there, and I can only assume that the stone itself picks up the water as it dips into it and then squirts it through this little tiny hole in the top, as you'll see in a minute. So to secure this in, it tells us to hook the back in first, lever it forward, and it snaps into place, nice and secure. And at this point, it is quite secure. It's not as flimsy as you might think. Again, we had these criticisms on the drill bit sharpener. It's all plastic, and yeah, it is, but it still feels reasonably substantial for what it's going to do at this point. Okay, next thing is to fill up the tray with cooling water. So that just involves tipping it in this bottom edge, pop it in there. It gives you a fill level just here. Let that drop down. That's it. It also tells us to keep that level checked and topped up, so as you're working and grinding and sharpening your tools and chisel blades and so on, keep an eye on that level, and if it's low, just top it up. I don't know where the water might go, perhaps all over me yet. Yeah. We don't know, she'll find that hilarious. So attach the drill, do it up, there we go. Do that. There we go. So it seems quite straightforward. If you follow the instructions to this point, this tells us now that we are ready to sharpen. We're going to do a knife. First of all, it claims to do knives, chisels, and plain blades. So we'll stick with the knife first of all, because I think that's the first thing that we will probably all sharpen. This is my very ancient, very old Eyewitness pocket knife. Hands up who remembers Eyewitness pocket knives. No lock, but just a very old knife, completely blunt. Let's see if we can cut something with this after it's sharpened. Okay, the attachment for knives, it tells us, is this one. We hook it over the back of the attachment with these two little hooks. So that hooks over the rear. Then we see these two little notches in the center. This latch goes in there and snaps into position. That is, there we go, second time lucky. There we go. And that presents this carrier down here against the cutting wheel or grinding wheel. So we are told to hold the knife down on this runner at the bottom and up against this arm. This way to do one side of the blade, and then this way to do the other, with this arm here being the angle guide to get it absolutely the right angle, and it's given us an angle of 25 degrees. Let's give it a go and see if it actually makes it sharper. Now this blade, if you know Eyewitness knives, this is a good quality steel blade, and they are well known for being a good piece of steel. That's a bit better, but again, it hasn't really, it's not real. It's sharp, but it's jagged. It's not got that perfect edge that you'd get with an oil stone. I think if a couple of seconds on an oil stone, you'd make that a lot better, but it is a lot sharper than it was. There's quite a burr on it. You need to work quite hard on the strop to get rid of the burr. But there we are, that's the first one. Okay, the second one I'm going to try is an even older knife. This is my grandfather's old Royal Navy seaman's knife from about 1945, or probably before. I imagine he was issued it at the beginning of World War II, so this is probably, could be as old as 1939. If any of you have seen these before, it's got a flat blade on top for things like rope work. It's got a marlin spike on the back for opening up rope for splicing and whatnot. And I treasure this. This is a lovely old item. I've never cleaned it. I've never refurbished it or de-rusted it or anything. This is as my grandfather gave it to me when I was about 10 years old. So I'm just going to put an edge on this because, again, there isn't one. It's simply like a coin on the edge there. So let's just run that through. It says 3 passes each time. Let's see if I can put a bit of an edge on this as well. Yeah. Okay, that with time would definitely get there, but I'm not going to cut any more into that. That's nice. It's made a reasonable edge on it, and I think with a little bit of effort and time, that hasn't got any of the roughness. Now, I don't know why that is. This, like I said, is an old 1970s Eyewitness blade, and it's made it a little bit rough and jagged on the edge. That one, probably a piece of steel. That blade's probably cooking 60, 70 years old, and it's made it smooth. That's still lovely and smooth. There's no jaggedness whatsoever. The stone hasn't left it rough, and with a little bit more work that would make a nice edge. So I don't know what to make of that. At the end of the day, it's a brand new stone. Some people say stones have to run in a little bit. It's very smooth, it's a very fine stone, but so far on those 2 knives it's put an edge on it. The thing you can see is a problem with this little frame here, with the hilt, this butt edge here. You can only get that close, so it will only touch, as you can see, it's only cutting the edge from there out. It's not cutting this last little bit. You just can't get to it. So again, I don't think, as far as sharpening knives is concerned, certainly this kind of knife, that is any good at all in comparison to an oil stone. I think you will never get better than an oil stone for sharpening knives. I know that any butcher will tell you that there is a time you have to grind a knife if it's really bad or if it's broken or you've got a chip in it, but for simply sharpening like this, I think an oil stone would definitely be the best, and I'm not going to butcher that old knife anymore. I'm going to leave that there. That's cool. The next thing it tells us is scissors, which is quite interesting because I like to blunt scissors for a pastime, go through quite a lot of them, and that involves taking this little thing off altogether, the knife guide, not using that at all, and actually using this little guide down here, because we're told that that is angled correctly for scissors. So let's give that a go and see if these manky old scissors can come back to life. It tells us to rest them on this little blue plastic rest at the bottom, which is actually quite solid, not flimsy at all, doesn't move. And if you look at it closely, it is very slightly angled. That's angled for scissors. So we are instructed to open out the scissors, put them on the blue rest, flat like that, press them down on it, and that is apparently the correct angle of cut for that scissor blade, and then to pass 2 or 3 times each side. Now they feel better straight away. My goodness.
They were really blunt.
These were the scissors. If you've been watching the project, these are the ones that I've been cutting all the fiberglass up with and the wire mesh back at the beginning. And they are absolutely like brand new. Check that out. Lovely. Smooth. There's no burr to them. And they're really sharp. Really accurate. These are old hairdressing scissors, so they're pretty good quality scissors in the first place. Lovely. So it works on scissors extremely well. And how many of us have got a blunt pair of scissors in the house? For 20 quid. How much is a pair of scissors? And how many of you replaced because they're blunt? Right, next thing, chisels, the big one. Okay, this is a little carrier that passes across the front of the stone with the chisel held at the perfect angle for grinding a perfect sharp edge. Now, as you know, any of the carpenters watching, chisels have to be ground at basically 25 degrees. If you want a secondary edge on it, that's ground at 30 degrees. So the carrier allows for that. I'll show you first of all how to set the angle itself. You pull up this little locking arm out of the way, and if you look down inside here through this little hole, you can see 25 degrees written. See that then? Mm-hmm. If you then lift this up, you can come up to 30 degrees, up again to 35, and right out to 40 degrees. And then once you're whatever angle you want, snap that into place and it locks it in. What that does, it brings this shoulder forward and therefore angles the chisel more to get the correct angle. In fact, a precise angle according to this. And for this grind, as I said, we need 25 degrees. So lifting that up, pop it down to the 25 degree angle, which is the lowest, snap it down into place and lock it down with the arm. Nice little mechanism, and as I said, impressively beefy for just plastic. So there we are. This is the little carrier. I said earlier on that it would be nice to have a knife in a little carrier that you could pass back and forwards, which you don't for knives. You just have this thing. But for chisels, you do. That is it. And it is, again, it's weighty. There's lots to it. There's a little metal thread in there that locks it all in place. I like that already. And we are instructed in the list there to pop the chisel down inside. And then, if I can show you on the inside here, this is what happens. It emerges down in. You then screw that up into place, and that grips the chisel and holds it at the right angle to be passed across the stone. As you can see, that can be screwed right the way out with this little vise coming all the way along to hold a big wide 60mm plane blade, which I'm going to do in a minute to see if I can make any improvements to my old one. So there we are. I'm going to try this first. We're instructed to drop it on top here. There's a little hook underneath there, and there's a bar along here, so that hooks into place like that and just snaps down. It doesn't lock into anything at the bottom because it's got to move. It moves backwards and forwards, as we can see, which is great. And there's a little arrow just there. You see it on top? This little arrow is where you're told, whoops, to hold the tool itself. So you've got the chisel there. It says hold the chisel in the center of where the arrow. That ensures, if we come around the front, that when we're operating it, the chisel itself is on the grinding face right in the center. It's moving across there and not ending up in the middle bit where this screw is. So it means this arrow lines up with the grinding face. So let's pop it on. And the final thing is to loosen that off, a little bit like the drill bit machine effectively, and then just press it down till it makes very light contact with the stone. There we are, just touch it, nothing much. There we are. And then screw that up so it holds it. Double check, take it off, make sure it's fine, right up against there, flat down against there. Okay, we're good to go. It instructs 3 passes to make the primary angle itself at 25 degrees and holding it in a certain way. So I'll do that. So let's just get it fired up. Okay, oh beautiful, check that out. 3 passes gives us that superb first 25-degree angle. Now leaving it in the holder, don't undo that, don't do anything to it. Move the angle up to 30 degrees and now it instructs just 2 passes to cut the secondary angle into the end of the chisel. Oh, lovely. Okay, one for you carpenters out there to comment on. What do you think?
That's not bad.
That looks nice. And there isn't even a burr on that. Let's check and see if it works. That is lovely. Absolutely superb. So there we are. You don't always, apparently, and I'm not a woodworker, I don't know anything about woodwork, but apparently you don't always need a primary and a secondary angle, but if you want one, that's how you do it. Now secondly, I want to do it on this. This is my big inch chisel, and I have to admit, the most common use for this is opening tins of body filler and cleaning body filler off my bench, so it's a pretty abused chisel, but I'm going to see if I can restore it. Take a look at it first before we go anywhere, because we're really going to see a difference in this one. Check that out, that's the state of it. Covered in this body filler and horrible stuff. I don't want all that in the grindstone, so I'm going to clean that off quickly with a file, and then we're going to see if we can make this look good. Line that up with the arrow. And I'm just going to show you inside here, lining up the end of the chisel with the stone. Okay, ready? As you can see, we're getting there. We're getting there slowly. That's had about 20 passes over it so far. And it does tell you to keep, if it's not cutting anymore, then to readjust the depth. So loosen that off and pop it down a bit further towards the stone. Boom, there we are. That's almost got it. One little bit more on that, and then I can put a 30-degree angle on the end. It has got a chip out the edge. I just want to make it, just want to get that as close as I can. Lovely, nice 25-degree angle all the way along. Now lift up the carrier, bring it out to 30 degrees, lock it in place, get back into it, bring that down so it's in contact with the stone. Check. Yep, you can just check that it's in contact while the drill's switched off, just like that. You can hear it. And now 2 or 3 passes and put that 30-degree angle in the end. There we are. Now, ignore the chip. That is 2 angles, 25, then 30-degree angled chisel.
It was badly damaged.
That was horrible. I mean, let's not get this wrong. That chisel was destroyed, and I've just brought it back to life. Without that chip off the corner, that would be. There it goes. Now, obviously, the carpenters out there among you will say straight away an oil stone is the only way. You know how to do it by hand. All the comments we had about the drill bits. For those of us mere mortals who don't know these things, this little carrier means you can put the correct angle in the end there, and you can restore even something like that is practically destroyed. And that is stone cold. There's not even room temperature warmth in that. That is colder than room temperature because it's running in the water. So that just leaves one other thing. I want to try a plain blade, like it says. It tells me that it does plain blades. You never get it out. Oh, here we are. Quite simply open that all the way out, pop the plain blade through, same exactly as a chisel. Do it up. Love it. Love it. Love it. Absolutely fabulous, lovely, love that. And one final thing, as it always advises on all of them, is to use the little leather strop that you get. To be honest, you could probably get yourself a decent one, but all you're meant to do with this on things like the plain blade is that way down, come off it that way, just to take any burrs off the underside. And that is lovely. Lovely. Right, there we are. I've got nothing to test the plane on, but that is razor sharp. Happy with that whole thing. Now, obviously there's one more thing we haven't shown, which is this little table bed here. That clips around the front of the grindstone like that and forms a remarkably sturdy little bed to rest small chisels on. This is a 1/2 inch chisel. This is the smallest size you could put in. Anything 3/8 inch or less, you wouldn't be able to fit into this carrier because this thing at the back just won't hold anything less than 3/8. So you're then left with just this option. They just show you these little angles on here, and you hold your chisel at that angle and you just grind it yourself at whatever angle you want. So you can still grind and sharpen chisels right down to tiny little things if you're model making, whatever it might be, but 1/2 inch is the smallest size for using on this. Still cool for what it is, honestly. It's going to have limitations. It's £21 and it's a DIY tool, and that's the issue. The other thing I did find was a couple of criticisms for myself. One obviously is this. This is really doesn't do it for me. I think if you had a long kitchen knife to draw across that, to put that back in, yeah, I think that works. A long knife, you're going to get a good grind on it all the way along. That's fine, but these little knives, it's just too small. So I'd say an absolute 2 out of 10 for that. However, scissors, 10 out of 10. I can't mark that enough. That's superb. 2 or 3 little strokes across there, and they are razor sharp. You can even hear it. They're lovely, really nice. And scissors are a bugger to sharpen if you've ever tried yourself. Getting that 25-degree angle absolutely right each time. Chuffed with that. Chisels, well, that's a no-brainer. They are lovely. Absolutely razor sharp. These are literally tuppenny halfpenny chisels. These came from In Excess, the pound shop. I think I've got a pack of 6 for £1. They are so cheap and nasty, but razor sharp. And no matter how many times they may go blunt, it takes a couple of seconds to resharpen them. Plain blade, well, again, you woodworkers will know the importance of that. So I'd say that's, again, equally as sharp as that and dead easy to sharpen. Despite the criticism, it does do the whole 60mm. The final thing that I thought was important was this. Looking in here, This is the cooling water at the end of the day. It's a bit full of iron filings, and I'm not so sure that all the filings here, which come from, let's face it, hardened steel blades. So that's all hardened steel filings in there, and you know, that's floating around in the cooling water. So is it good for the cooling water that pours out of here to be full of hard metal filings? Is that going to give you such a smooth grind? It's making the surface of this stone a coarser stone because it's full of almost like an aggregate, if you like. Now, a better way to keep the iron filings in there and keep the cooling water clean, because it just recycles it, is perhaps poke a couple of magnets in there, little dizzy sort of coin-sized magnets. Just drop them in the bottom. That'll pick up all the iron filings, and then you get clean water flowing. But that's a small criticism, it really is, honestly. You can criticise these little things all you like, but for 20 quid, a nice usable piece of kit. What do you reckon?
Yeah, it's not bad. Let's get cleared up.
Okay, thank you to the guys at RECON for sending us this little item. It was on the strength of the feedback from the drill sharpener, and I think they saw that people like it, so they sent us this over. So thank you so much to them. I really appreciate that. I'm going to put a link underneath the video to this at RECON, and if you're going to buy yourself one, do us a favour and buy it from them. They do a good and competitive price for it, and if you support our sponsors, then we can keep making videos to help you out, make a decision whether this sort of thing is for you or not. I hope it's been an honest review. It's not always perfect. These things are definitely for the DIYer, so I'll preempt that straight away for all of the professionals out there. Of course, this sort of thing doesn't work if you're a professional person, and of course, if you've got an apprenticeship in tool handling and use of tools, then of course you're only better at it doing it manually by hand. For those of us mere mortals, we don't have that. We have to rely on this sort of thing, and I think for the money it costs, it's well worth the punt. It really is. £21, link underneath. As we said, you support our sponsors and we can keep making videos. So there we are. Anything else, Ben?
Have a Whetstone Wednesday.
Whetstone Wednesday. Thank you for watching. Take it easy, ride safe. See you next time for some more on the build.